Hi everyone, same album, same group, same fantastic guitarist, but this time a different song. Now, I've received so many requests to do more Spirit songs you wouldn't believe. I started looking through the catalogue again. I was going to do one off of Future Games, which is another fantastic album that I mentioned in the last video. And I did get requests, which is quite understandable, that people said that he was a fantastic acoustic player, which he was. You know, he was superb on the electric guitar, but he also had a real virtuosity on the acoustic guitar, which you do get to hear a lot if you're into Spirit, but it doesn't get pushed to the front enough, I don't feel. So I thought this time I'll do an acoustic song. Now, I was going to do the ultimate acoustic song of his, Farther Along, but I've noticed that's all, like, it's not up there in video form, but the chords are up there on the internet, and I do like to do songs that are not out there, but people have not got any chordal reference to or any tablature for the guitar. Plus, I thought for this one I wanted to do a real beginner easy song. Okay, now with this song, it's quite remarkable. The song is called We've Got a Lot to Learn. That's the one I chose to do. It sounds remarkably simple, but again, it is simple to play in the form that he played it. But I did do a production, if you could call it that. I've done a track of me singing with my daughter because I couldn't get them high notes. I mean, his voice had some range. He had like a falsetto voice anyway, really, but he could really get low and get quite really high. So his range was unbelievable, and there's no way I could match his range. I could barely match his acoustic playing. I definitely can't match his lead playing. But there was no way I could sing it, so I got my daughter to sing it, and she was singing the high parts, which did work, but the song sounded so empty. It sounded literally like a folk song. Now, it was written, I think, as a folk song. We've Got a Lot to Learn, obviously, is off this album. Now, originally, this album was recorded in the 70s. And I don't want to go into a big story of Potatoland. I'll leave that up to Mike, who does. Check out Mike. He's got a classic albums channel. I'll link it in the description. And he's got one about Future Games. And it's amazing. He really goes in depth in it. And he does know his stuff on Spirit and Randy California. He really does know his stuff, and he's done some superb videos. I'm hoping he does one on Potatoland. He should do. He should give you the full story on Potatoland. He was the one who even told me that Turn to the Right was the first song Randy California wrote. I think it's with the Red Roosters. Forgive me if I've got that wrong. But he knows his stuff on Randy California's Spirit, and I've been asking him lots of questions, and he's bang on. Check out his videos. Also, I've joined a Randy California tribute page on Facebook, which I'll also link. Another great place for anything to do with Randy California and even Spirit. You get some real rare videos going, real rare bootleg recordings from their live shows, and he was a real good live player. Spirit Live will blow your mind. Anyway, let's get back to the song. I chose this because it was originally wrote, I feel, like a folky song, because it's at the beginning of the album. It's a concept album. It's about Captain Copter and Commander Cassidy finding their way into and probably away from Potatoland, but you know, listen to the album for the actual full story. But it was, I think it's a folk song telling you the story of a song, you know, and it's done on simple chords. I'll show you a simple variation in a minute when, not a variation, it's actually the song, you know. I'll show you how to play it on an acoustic guitar. It's not that's fantastic. I mean, he uses a chordal you know, structure that's been used since rock and roll songs, you know. It's relative minor chords, which has been used in loads of songs, very prominently in songs like My Sweet Lord by George Harrison, right up to, you know, Paul Weller in The Jam using it for That's Entertainment. You know, the millions of songs have been used this method. Now, the thing that Randy California did different with this method, because I could go on and on about, music theory into this, and I'd be glad to, but I'd lose you if you wasn't really into theory, and it would bore you. But he knew his shit when it comes to music. He wasn't just a virtuoso on the guitar. He really knew his music theory, you know, because he knew how to just accentuate chords. Accentuate, which should be the word I used. He knew how to do that, so he could hint at it. He could give you the idea of that, but not actually play it. You know, I will explain it, when I show you on the acoustic guitar. But he uses 2 chords, but his voice structure uses 4 or 6 chords. You know, so the layers of it are different notes. With music, to break it down, to simplify it, if you're in the key of C, there's different chords in the key of C. There's 7 different chords, you know, that are in that key, and he tends to not use them on the guitar, which is what most bands do. They play from chord to chord. He uses just 2 of the chords to hint, just to give you that key of the song, and then his vocal range, he layers above, and other instruments, which a lot of artists do. They use instruments to accentuate certain notes, but he uses his voice. It layers on, layers on, and layers on. Lots of it, and it starts, you know, before he'll overlay a voice that covers the main vocal, but it's in a different key. You know, not really in a different key. That's the wrong way to explain it. Like if he's playing the C, he'll use the note D, like cut right through it. But he'll use that vocally. Most people use that on lead breaks, you know, but he uses it just fantastically. You know, I listen to the song and you'll see what I mean. It was impossible for us to recreate that, me and my daughter. We went some way of doing it. She done really great. Maybe I'll put it up one day. But it still lacked. It lacked it. I mean, he's got brass instruments on this song that just punch in. You know, it really does come in. It hits you. You think, wow, it's massive. So simple, the structure, but it sounds huge. And you think, wow, and you're left, and it's only like just over 2 minutes, the song. And by the time the song finishes, you're left thinking, wow, that was some song. That was, which is obviously his aim. But it's like, I don't know whether he knew how you know, inspiring that was. It's, you know, like I think it just sounds like a throwaway tune he's done, because it wasn't on the original album, I've been told. And he wrote it to bring the album up to date when he decided to release it, because as I said in the last video, it was wrote in 1972, but it wasn't released until 1985, and it was in a much more condensed version and a different version to what they was originally going to be put out, what he was originally going to put out. It's labelled as a spirit project, but it wasn't. It was Randy California and Ed Cassidy. There are other musicians on it. Michael K. Lee is on it as vocals, but he definitely didn't do the vocals on this song, We've Got a Lot to Learn, because you can hear it's all Randy California. And he had other musicians on it, and he labelled it as a spirit project, but I really don't think it was. I think he wrote this after he'd done the Twirly Birds album, which was his own album. Randy California wasn't a spirit project. I think he broke up with Spirit by then. But Spirit, you know, got back and forth all the time. You know, they'd come and play live shows, they'd play on studio albums, then they'd go again, and he'd have different musicians in, so many musicians. I think he really was like an old-fashioned hippie, a real communal guy. That I think you know, I've heard songs where he's met hitchhikers, he's picked them up and then let them play his guitars, and, you know, invited them to sessions, and, you know, what an amazing man. You know, I think he really did. You know, he was the epitome of peace and love and harmony. You know, a lot of his lyrics are to do with, you know, the world, and, you know, how to make it better, you know, and love. He really was that hippie. So, like I say, I think he just used all these musicians, and I think he was so generous putting this out as a spirit album, because, as I said, I was sure it wasn't, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think the other thing that I want to say about this song is that when you hear it, it's amazing that it could just be a throwaway 2-minute song. It's like it should have gone on for ages, but it doesn't. But in that 2 minutes, it captures you, and it's the start of the album, and it's like you put the song on, and it's like, wow, and you're into the album already. Then it progresses further, and there's some weird stuff on the album, some real strange stuff on the album. It's real psychedelic, and you look at it and you think, what is this guy? And then you think, well, that's good, and this is good, and it really captures you, and it really takes you on a journey. I mean, and that's without anything enhancing it. It takes you on a complete journey. But like I say, I could talk about it all day, and it would probably bore you, okay, if this hasn't already. But what I'm going to do now is play the song up against the record, and that's the only way I can do this justice. Normally I would do like my own production of it, but it's pointless. It takes away the magic and the beauty, which is Randy California. And like I said to you, I've said it before and I'll say it again, this man is a god. Okay, so enjoy the track and enjoy the lesson. Right, now in part one, I'm going to teach you the chords. Now, I'll have a little chat with you about what he's actually doing with the song, just so you know how he's harmonising. And this is what I'm talking about, how it makes it such an extraordinary song. But the chords are really basic, which is why I chose it. because I do want the beginners to get into Spirit, because there's really some good lessons to be learned by listening to Randy California's guitaring. But the chords are just a C, which you can use the normal C, but I use the added G bass note, which makes the C like that. Okay, that just gives it just a bit more fullness. Okay, but you know, use C if that's all you can do. Okay, but try and learn to add that, because a lot of rock songs use that C. Okay, so it's just C, A minor, E minor, G. Now Randy plays a lot of the time G without this note, you know, without this finger on the 2nd fret, A string, because again, sounds a lot better, a lot more acoustic and fuller without that finger on. Okay, and the other chords is just a D. That's it, all those chords. And he just fluctuates between them, like the verses, first verses. Let me tell you about the strumming first. I'm not one of them teachers that teach up, down, up, down, up, down strums. If you listen to the music, you'll hear the strum, or just play the rhythm, the feel of the song. Just that strum, and that'll teach you the rhythm of music. You can't be taught rhythm, really. You've either got it or you haven't, and you will get it, and everyone's got rhythm, okay, no matter what they tell you. So just listen to the song, get into it, and then it'll make your playing so much more emotional and so much more engaging to the listener, rather than someone going, well, down, down, up, down. You know, it makes you robotic. You really don't want that. Nice. Okay, let's all just flow it. I'm gonna put, when I play through the whole song up against the actual track, because as I said, I think that's the only way I'm gonna do this song justice. I'll put the chords up along the bottom of the screen as I change between them. Okay, so you will see that, and you will know then. Keep rewinding if you need to, and you know exactly where you are all the time. Now the thing is with this song I wanted to teach you about, if they're called relative minors. Now it uses the riff okay. Now you'll see that is C, relative minor is A minor, right, and then the switch to E minor to G. G's relative minor is E minor. So this is why they click so well and sound so pleasant. The relative minors. Every single chord, major chord, has got a relative minor. Okay, now the D chord just links to the G. The relative minor of D, just so you know, is B minor, but he doesn't use that chord. Right. When he actually plays in the verses, you'll hear him play, and excuse my voice because I'm no Randy California, I definitely ain't got his range, and I'm not a great singer at the best of times, but bear with me. So he'll sing, we got a lot to learn, so much to grow, there's just so much to be told, here we go. Now he just plays them chords still, and he adds the G, but really the notes of his voice are going, we got a lot to learn, so much to grow, there's just so much to be told, here we go. That's the harmonies. He's using the F, which is in the key, the D, which is in the key, before he finishes and ends up on that G. Now what this does, these harmonies, they give you a sense of urgency. They're not finished, so that needs to be finished. Oh, it's nearly there, and then okay. But people use that so much in songs, especially in blues. It's like a release. You know, builds up the tension, and there's the release. Okay, tension and release. So he's creating the tension, not with the chords, and the release with his voice. Da, da, da. There's the release. It means, oh, and we got there. Okay, so this is what he's doing. This is what's so clever about his harmonies. So, but instead of playing that, he just does it with the voice and plays them natural chords. And that's what it's like. It's that constant tension building and then the release all throughout the song, which is what makes it's like gospel music, it's like blues, it's like all that kind of music. Use it and draws on that because they build you right up, so like to crescendo, and then there's that big release and that big sigh at the end of it, which is what he does so fantastically in this song. Okay, like I say, I could go on about the song forever, but it will just get boring. Just enjoy the lesson, you know, especially if you're a beginner. What a fantastic acoustic song to learn.